So once again, I'm very pleased to introduce Katie Carlson, who will offer this evening's feature. Her presentation will incorporate some seated yoga as well. Katie was appointed to be the first Director of Wellness Initiatives for the Marion County Sheriff's Office in 2021. Previously, she served as Public Information Officer for the Sheriff, a position she assumed in 2012. Katie finds peace and balance through yoga practice and great joy in sharing her yoga and mindfulness practices with others. Katie completed a 200-hour yoga teacher training at City Yoga in Indianapolis in 2019, and 4 months ago completed coursework to become a certified mindfulness teacher through the Engaged Mindfulness Institute. Here this evening, for her 18th Wednesday night presentation. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and I want to echo Robert's opening remarks about Officer Shanavaz. That's just very sad through Troy on these calls. You know, we've both had the opportunity to work with the recruit classes at ILEA, and he was in the most recent one. So it feels a little extra sad, and also just noting the death in the car accident of Congresswoman Walorski and her two staffers earlier today too. That is a fairly close hit as well. So there's kind of a lot of heartache, in the room that I want to acknowledge before really moving into this presentation, which is of a slightly lighter subject matter in some senses than the last one that I did. So hopefully that's a good thing, but it's really it's an honor to be here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to present every time I can to this group. So this is the third in a series of 7 in a series that I call Balancing Our Energy Centers. When I say energy centers, what I'm referring to are the chakras, sometimes pronounced chakras. The word chakra is a Sanskrit word meaning wheel or circle. The philosophy of chakras arose in early Hinduism. While we are all familiar with the concept of the physical body, chakras refer to one's subtle body or energy body. There are 7 chakras that align from the base of the spine to the crown of the head, and each of these energy centers is believed to correspond with different aspects of our being. In my previous presentations, I've discussed the first 2 of 7 chakras, including the root chakra, which is associated with having our basic needs met, our family and ancestral upbringings, as well as our general sense of stability and groundedness, and the sacral chakra, which is associated with our relationships with other people, money, sex, power, and creativity. Today, I am going to dive into the third chakra, the Manipura chakra, which translates to lustrous. Manipura translates to lustrous gem. So it's also known as the solar plexus chakra, which is what I'm going to be referring to it as for the remainder of this presentation. So the solar plexus chakra is located approximately 2 inches or 4 fingers above our navel and between that area and our sternum. It's associated with the color yellow, our digestive system, our diaphragm, and our pancreas. It's also associated with the ages of 15 to 21 years old. I titled this presentation Kindling the Flames of Self-Confidence because our solar plexus chakra is said to have heavy influence over our self-identity, self-confidence, and willpower. In a lot of ways, this presentation reminds me of the presentation I gave about a year ago on tapas, not the Spanish cuisine, but one of yoga's niyama, or constructs for internal growth. In fact, that presentation was entitled Igniting the Spark of of transformation. So we've got kindling the flames of self-confidence, igniting the spark of transformation. Both the solar plexus chakra and tapas, which translates to the word burn, have a lot to do with the fire inside of each of us. And a phrase that I used in that last presentation is equally applicable to this one, which is a fire in our belly. In the case of the solar plexus chakra, it's much more literal, including the process of digestion and turning the food that we consume into energy. But metaphorically, having a fire in your belly means having drive, direction, and determination. So the chakras are a progression. First associated with birth through age 7, our roots are established. Then with the ages of 8 to 14, we begin to expand to expression and interactivity with others. And then here at the third chakra, ages 15 to 21, we discover what really makes each one of us us. For most of us, by our late teenage years, we were beginning to think about what we would do for a profession. Many, including myself, have been enrolled, had been, may have been enrolled in college or beginning to obtain full time work experience. Of course, our careers aren't who we are, but around that age, we begin taking those first steps towards independence, like moving out of our family homes. I just want to ask a question real quick. Of just at least if you've got your screen on, did you move out of your family home between the ages of 18 to 21? Yep. So you can see it's kind of when we start going out on our own, breaking away a little bit from that the family structure that we've known as children. So to reflect upon each chakra as an opportunity to bring our attention and balance, if necessary, to various elements of our being and general wellness. Chakras or wheels are thought of when out of balance as either spinning too fast or too slow. So, signs of an out of balance solar plexus chakra could include low self esteem, low energy or drive, indecision, or on the other end, arrogance and issues with control. Physical manifestations can include a wide range of digestive issues and nutrient absorption issues. As I mentioned in my last presentation, it's often considered that if your lower three chakras are out of balance or blocked, it will be difficult to bring balance to your higher chakras, including your heart, your throat, the third eye, and the crown chakra. But you can see that even the lower two chakras and the years of life that they are associated with are a bit more heavily loaded or consequential even than the third. In other words, if there are enough issues with developing a sense of groundedness, having your basic needs met, and having healthy relationships with other people, a sense of self confidence and willpower to create the lives that we want can seem like a pipe dream. In another sense, the solar plexus chakra, by way of the healing journey through the all three lower chakra, is like a gateway to the upper chakras. So it seems I've set myself up for an enormous task, almost too big to contemplate in this presentation. So, how do we bring the solar plexus chakra into balance? How do we develop a healthy sense of self esteem and self worth? How do we develop an internal drive, not to necessarily be more productive or work oriented beings in a capitalistic economy, but to develop the drive to know ourselves, to listen to ourselves, to trust ourselves, and to be able to provide for ourselves in a way that meets our very specific physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs? So the answer may surprise you, or maybe it won't. It's mindfulness, of course. Even more specifically, I'm referring to our own self talk. As a mindfulness instructor with my certification pending before a committee, my absolute favorite part of teaching, and the thing that always is the most impactful for those I teach, is developing a mindful meditation practice isn't a contest to see who can sit on a pillow and concentrate the hardest. Being able to rid your mind of distraction doesn't make you a better person than anyone else. The important thing about developing a mindfulness meditation practice are the qualities of mindfulness that we cultivate during our time in meditation. And through practice, like practicing a sport or an instrument, in time, that practice becomes a little bit more natural or innate. These qualities of mindfulness, especially as they relate to a healthy self esteem and self worth, include but aren't limited to kindness towards ourselves, acceptance for ourselves, non judgment, and a sense of humor, or just not taking ourselves so seriously. These qualities are cultivated through acknowledgement and then our own self talk. That's why in a mindfulness meditation practice, while we bring our focus to a single object of mindfulness, you'll hear again and again that if you notice that your mind has wandered, to gently bring your mind back to your breath or whatever your object of mindfulness is. The words that I often use, which I'm sure I picked up mostly from John Fleet in my training through the Engaged Mindfulness Institute, is to use this opportunity of noticing that your mind has wandered to cultivate a sense of kindness towards yourself. So, cultivating a sense of kindness towards yourself during meditation practice means avoiding negative self talk like, I can't do this, or I'm just not good at meditating. And it means engaging in self talk like, hey, they said it's common for my mind to wander. Now I just need to bring it back. Or even humor. Oops, there it went. Now I'm back. So, one of the most frequently cited tools, per se, for balancing your solar plexus chakra is mantra and affirmation. Historically, mantra is defined as a word or sound that is repeated to aid in concentration. In fact, every single chakra has a very specific mantra, and the mantra for the solar plexus chakra it looks like the word ram, but it sounds like this: Ram, Ram, Ram. That's the mantra for the solar plexus chakra. But the modern definition of mantra is that of a statement or slogan which is repeated frequently, and statements like affirmations. So, examples of affirmations that would support the balance of the solar plexus chakra include: I am enough just as I am. I am worthy of respect from myself and others. I am aligned with my purpose. I am strong, powerful, and confident. I love and accept myself for exactly the person that I am. You get the picture. Ultimately, bringing balance to the solar plexus chakra, or to kindle the flames of self confidence, self worth, and willpower, isn't something that anyone or anything can do for us. It's about the relationship that we have and create with ourselves. It's the way that we think about ourselves. It's the way that we talk about ourselves. And it's amount of kindness and grace that we can extend to ourselves. Like any area of life and well being governed by the chakras, there will be times that that is off balance. What do we do then? Well, first we notice it, and then we cultivate and practice a sense of kindness, of non judgmental acceptance towards ourselves through meditation and throughout our daily lives. From here, we'll proceed to a short yoga practice followed by a meditation aimed at supporting a sense of balance in our in our solar plexus chakra. So I'm going to move my chair back just a little bit for the seated yoga portion. And so we're going to start with our hand on our belly, right on our solar plexus. And so where we said is about, 2 inches or 4 fingers above our navel, and then below our sternum. So just resting our hand right there. We said, as I mentioned, it's associated with the diaphragm, which is a really active part of our breath. And so we're going to begin our yoga practice just by starting to connect with our breath. You can keep your eyes open or keep your eyes closed doing this, but just starting to breathe in through your nose and out through your nose if that's comfortable. Your hand resting on your solar plexus chakra. Just beginning to connect with your breath and also notice as your hand might move in and out, up and down a little bit with each inhale and exhale. Starting to take these full, long, deep breaths in, full, deep breath out, full inhalation, full exhalation. From here, we're going to move our hands to our knees if that's comfortable for you. And as we inhale, we're going to start to bring our chest forward and lift our head up towards the ceiling without straining our neck. So we're really kind of letting our solar plexus come forward. As we exhale, we're going to round our back and we're going to release our head and our neck so that our chin comes towards our chest. So we'll do this about 3 more times. Inhaling forward, bringing our chest forward, lifting our head up. As we exhale, rounding our back and releasing our chin down to our chest. And as we do this, we just want to make it feel good in your body. So just listening to your body, taking the cues from your own body as we inhale, bringing our chest and our head forward, our head up. As we exhale, rounding our back, releasing our chin to our chest. 1 more time, inhaling, bringing our chest forward, lifting our head up. Exhale, rounding our back, releasing our chin to our chest. Coming back up to a neutral seated position. From here, we're going to inhale, lifting our arms up overhead. And as we exhale, we're going to take a twist to the right. So we'll take our left hand, maybe placing it on the outside of our right leg. We'll take our right hand and you can place it at the base of your spine or at the top of your chair, whatever feels comfortable for you to take a nice twist. And when we find a twist that feels good, that feels comfortable, connecting with our breath, breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. You might feel this twist kind of opening up this middle part of our torso. And then with our next inhale, lifting our arms up overhead. As we exhale, twisting to the opposite side. So this time our right hand comes to the outside of our left leg. Our left hand either comes to the chair at the base of our spine or at the top of the chair. So we take this twist going the other direction, connecting with our breath. Breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. And again, just paying particular attention to this point on our body, this point between our belly and our sternum. Feeling it move up and down with each inhale and exhale, even in this twist. And then with our next inhale, lifting our arms back up overhead. And as we exhale, bringing our hands back down by our side. From here, we're going to do a couple seated sun salutations. So we'll inhale, lifting our arms back up. As we exhale, we're going to just start to fold over our legs. So this might look or feel different for everybody. So the point's just to make it feel good in your body. You may be able to come all the way to the tops of your thighs. You might just releasing your head, releasing your neck, trying to feel this long stretch kind of coming through your lower and mid back. With our next inhale, we'll start to slowly roll back up, coming to a seated position. And we're going to do that about 2 more times. So we inhale, lifting our arms up overhead. As we exhale, we start to fold over our legs in whatever way really just feels comfortable, feels good to us. Trying to make staying with our breath and making this feel good in your body the top priority. Maybe letting your head hang, maybe connecting with your breath, taking a couple rounds of breath here. And then with our next inhale, beginning to slowly roll back up to a seated position. Connecting with our breath again, we'll inhale, lifting our arms up overhead. As we exhale, folding over our legs, just noticing what we can release, what we can let go of here. Maybe it's this tension in our neck, maybe in our back, staying connected with our breath. And then with our next inhale, starting to slowly roll back up to a seated position. From here, we're going to hug our right knee in our chest. So just you can take whatever position in your chair feels good. If you want to lean back a little bit, we'll just bring our right knee up and we're going to start to make some circles with our ankles, going our foot going one direction and the other direction. Then gently releasing that leg, letting it come back down to the ground. From there, we're going to inhale, bringing our other knee towards our chest in whatever way feels comfortable, making circles with our foot going one direction and the other direction. Gently releasing our leg. And then just starting to settle into our meditation practice. So, using this opportunity, if there's a little bit of your body that needs a little stretch before we start settling in, something that's left over from that practice, doing that, just so that we can really take as comfortable seat as possible. And as we take this comfortable seat, we want to find something that feels both uplifted and relaxed. Your hands can fall wherever they feel most comfortable, maybe sitting on your lap or with your hands folded in your lap. Might take an inhale right here and just bring our shoulders up to our ears, and then exhale, letting our shoulders come down into our back, releasing them completely. And you can let your eyes stay open, or you can close your eyes. If you keep your eyes open, you might just cast your gaze downward, away from a screen. And from here, we're just going to begin to notice our breath, not really making any changes to our breath at first, just beginning to pay attention to it. One thing we might notice is that it's hard to pay attention to our breath without making any changes to it. And then beginning to become a little bit more intentional with the length of our inhale and exhale, taking a fuller, deeper breath in and a fuller exhale, pushing all of that air out. Beginning to notice the point in our body where the breath enters our body. Maybe this is through our nose or through our parted lips, and a sensation of coolness that comes with that point where the air meets our nose or lips. We might feel a sense of warmth as the air leaves our body. Continuing to follow our breath in through our throat into our lungs. We may feel some expansion in our lungs, expansion in our rib cage with each exhale. You may feel some contraction with each exhale. So expansion on the inhale, contraction on the exhale. We may notice a little bit of movement that's in our back or in our shoulders that comes with each inhale and exhale. And finally, if it feels comfortable, if it feels normal for you, beginning to notice that movement at the very bottom of our lungs, our diaphragm, which lowers with each inhale, allowing our lungs to expand, and raises with each exhale, pushing the air out of our lungs. Just focusing on this place at the very bottom of our lungs, focusing on that movement that feels mostly in our stomach area. May feel like an expansion and a contraction in our stomach. And of course, if you don't feel very much there, that's a very normal thing. You might let your focus rest wherever you feel your breath the most in your body. Maybe that's the expansion in your lungs, the expansion between the muscles in your rib cage. But if it feels comfortable for you, paying particular attention to the diaphragm, to the belly, and the movement that that creates in your body with each inhale and exhale. As we focus on our breath, it can be very easy for our mind to wander. That's what our minds do. And if we notice that our mind has wandered from these sensations in our body, these sensations in our breath, maybe to a distraction, a noise in the room, maybe to something that happened earlier today or something coming up, just using that opportunity to notice that your mind has wandered from the sensations of breathing in and breathe out, and gently, with a sense of kindness towards ourselves, just bringing our attention back to our breath. We're going to spend about 1 minute with fairly relaxed instruction, just paying attention to our breath, noticing if our mind has wandered, and gently, kindly bringing our mind back to our breath. Before concluding this practice, we're just going to take a moment to offer a round of loving kindness practice to ourselves, and other times and opportunities we could go through the cycles of offering this to people that we love and people that are neutral to us. But right now, we're just going to spend a little bit of time offering this series of well wishes to ourselves. And if these particular phrases don't sit well with you, or if something feels more appropriate to you, feel free to give yourself any affirmation, any words that you need right now. But we'll begin by offering ourselves the wish of, may I be happy. May I be joyful. Repeating these phrases to ourselves. And if it feels hard, if it feels hard to feel happy or joyful today, you can always say, may I feel happy or joyful tomorrow or someday. The next phrase, the next wish to offer ourselves is, may I be safe. May I be free from harm. Free from danger. May I be safe. May I be free from harm. Next, we'll offer this wish to ourselves. May I be healthy. May I be in good health. May I be free from illness. Repeating these phrases to ourselves. And finally, offering this wish to ourselves. May I be at peace. May I feel relaxed. A sense of comfort. May I be at peace. So from here, it might feel good to start bringing some movement back into your body. Maybe that's taking another little twist or stretch. If your eyes are closed, you can begin to open your eyes. And before leaving this practice behind, just taking a moment to look around in the space that you currently occupy. Just notice where you are, right here, right now, in this time, in this space. And then coming back together as a group, I thank you for your practice, an opportunity to present to you. And I'm open for any questions that may come up. Thank you again.
Well, thank you so much, Katie. Thank you. And please, everyone, you're welcome to unmute and offer a comment or a question, insight, or you're welcome to use the chat function. Any way you'd like to communicate, contribute.
did anybody, sometimes I feel my breath the strongest. I like noting where I feel my breath the most in my body. And a lot of the time, my diaphragm is the place that I feel it the most. Is that ever the case for anyone else?
I'd say yes. I love the diaphragm work. I think it's kind of the most invigorating and I don't know if it's the right word to say. I feel like I'm more in control when I'm following the diaphragm and doing diaphragmatic breathing.
Thank you, Amber.
But yes, I would agree the diaphragm focus on that is very helpful and relaxing.
I think during that exercise, I noticed that I rarely empty my lungs. And it felt like a very healthy thing to do to release all of that was in my lungs. Just from a purely health perspective, to keep the healthy air in and not let it get stagnant and stale in the lower lobes of the lungs. That felt very healthy.
Wonderful.
I did have one question, Katie.
Mhm.
You mentioned that sometimes stages of development, child development, and that there's a window of opportunity to regain something that didn't fully develop, and sometimes the window closes completely. And we can't. So I'm wondering about with the chakras, if, like you mentioned, the development doesn't occur like it should, is there a recourse to go back and fix that?
Well, I'm not a professional, with any of this, but what I love about the chakras and chakra work are the questions that it poses to ourselves. And Sandy may have more to add to this too, because she works with chakra a lot, I know. But I think that a lot of the time, okay, I'll just speak from my personal experience where there were, and a lot of this I mentioned the last time, where I really, some things that had kind of, where I had experienced trauma in the ages of 8 to 14. I didn't really fully consider some of the impact that was making on my life until I began to reflect on those parts of the chakra. And so, I think that, there's, having multiple pronged approach, and especially therapy. I mean, especially depending on the severity of whatever the neglect is. But just speaking from my own personal experience, just having the opportunity to start to ask myself those questions gives me the chance to look through answers, which I do on my own and with my therapist, and with in journaling. And so, not, none of it's necessarily, especially when it comes to any sort of childhood trauma, none of it, we have to do on our own, but it can pose questions and stuff, which I think is especially interesting with self-esteem. And I ended up cutting this part out of my presentation. I kind of ended up using it, mentioning it at the end. But I mean, who doesn't struggle with self-esteem sometimes, and willpower, and this, kind of knowing ourselves. And so even if you had a near perfect childhood, we can always be a little off on any of those things. So I just think they're a great chance to really stop and ask ourselves, some important questions.
Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that.
I have a question, Katie, about what parallels you see. Sometimes we talk about when we're working with the diaphragm, focusing on the diaphragm, that rising and falling of the belly. And we know that there's actually movement, right? There are actually internal organs that are shifting and moving. And that sometimes we talk about this is like a gentle massage, that by having that motion of the diaphragm, that we're massaging that area of the abdominal cavity. Clearly now, understanding that's the location of this chakra. So I just wondering the parallels between this diaphragm work that we just did, the physiological movement and massage of those vital organs, those whole all the muscles and whatever is the air, soft tissues in those areas, and health balance of that chakra.
Well, again, on this one, and Sandy, you may have more to add to this too. I think of the work that we did, both when we had our hands on it and when we pay attention to that, as almost kind of an activation. And if we draw a parallel back to mindfulness, to noticing and just paying attention to this part of our body, no different than if we paid attention to our feet, on the feeling of our feet on the floor, when we are considering kind of groundedness and rootedness. And so I think it's a good way to draw our attention in, to this space, so that and just sort of energize it a little bit, like give it a little massage or relax. And then I don't know, I don't have the exact answer of that, but of where it ties back exactly. I mean, it's hard to say that diaphragm breathing will automatically lead to self-confidence. Another thing I didn't put in, because I often mention the different foods, one of which is for the would be yellow foods for this chakra, including pineapple. And wow, I love pineapple. I mean, it just almost seems so silly to say, when it comes to your willpower and your self-talk, eat pineapple, because I could eat pineapple all day, or I could diaphragm breathe all day. But so much of this has to do with our self-talk. So I think it's kind of a point of attention. But Sandy, is there anything that in your practice that's maybe more scientific there with diaphragm breathing and chakra work, or connection?
Well, yeah, interestingly enough, something that I was taught recently is that, women are often encouraged to strengthen their muscles, their perineal, the pelvic floor muscles, with Kegel exercises. And actually, it was a woman, a psychologist who specializes in sex therapy, and she commented that diaphragmatic breathing is actually the better exercise, because and Katie, when you were talking about the expansion and the contraction, so when you breathe, you can feel that. And I would always say to my music students, if you're breathing right, your pants are getting tight. And it's kind of like a toad effect when you see a toad settle and they kind of expand out their middle section. So you can feel that. And it really is a rooting down, which is, it's just really all connected. So when you're breathing in, you feel that expansion. And when you exhale and when you draw the belly button up, you can really feel that contraction. So that actually is a better exercise to strengthen the pelvic floor, diaphragmatic breathing.
So it's almost like we can strengthen that those muscles in our diaphragm and pelvic floor as we strengthen our mindfulness muscles.
Yeah. And when you were talking about confidence, for me, I really feel that, because it's to have a strong to have a strong presence. I just really feel that when you come down into that settling, so when you're breathing in, and you can just feel your center of balance come down into a place of stability and sturdiness, And so I equate that with a confident pose, a confident posture. So I would agree with you on that, Katie.
Well, I was in the meeting today, and was the only woman in the room, and also, that's not super common with most of my stuff. It just happened to be the case today, but I was set right up there at the table, and my, there's such a difference between when you kind of put your solar plexus away and when you are standing straight up, and when you're like shining forward and letting that, so I think those are kind of similar, in senses. Does that did that answer your question, John?
I think it informs and illuminates.
Loose, yeah.
I haven't studied the chakras, and the little understanding that I have is, if we're talking about subtle body, that it's not necessarily a physiological entity. But I really appreciated the talk about sort of the diaphragmatic breathing can be a training to, in a way, as you say, sort of give it a little juice.
Yeah, it's hard to diaphragmatically breathe and sit up straight, too. And I think just that sort of confidence, that groundedness, it's like up and down. It's like taking our seat, as Fleet always would say, and then, being tall and being rooted at the same time, feeling relaxed and feeling upright. So I was really, honestly, when I write these, I don't know where they're gonna go. I don't have it all usually in my head. And then with this one, it surprised me really, when I came back around to it with um mantra and with affirmation and with this, with the relationship that we have with ourselves, which is practically everything, and how closely that's tied in with just just the exact kind of mindfulness training that we are talking about every week on these calls, and did all through the institute. So that was a joyful surprise for me to be able to kind of connect those two things. So uh, especially those kind of those thoughts in our head with the affirmation and stuff like that, but which is weird, when I first started with the Engaged Mindfulness Institute, when I first did our first week of training, I'd asked Fleet, because most of my meditation experience before this had been like with Deepak Chopra and Oprah on apps. Like, I'd had a lot, but it had been, and so mantra and things like that really were like everything. Like when I meditated, like I was always having a phrase in my head. Like that's just what I knew of it. And, then we learned kind of the way that we do, this mindfulness meditation. And I asked Fleet, I was like, so was I wrong all those times? He's like, not wrong. It's like different kind of meditation. And he said, most of you don't want to do that most of the time, but if you do it sometimes, like it's fine. And so it was interesting, just how, but there's a difference between that sort of repeating those words like Ram and, I am strong, and then the way that we think, because we can tell ourselves this sort of stuff all day, but if that's not the way that we think about ourselves when that arises in our practice, then it's not really the same. I don't want to say it doesn't matter. I mean, but You know, that it's not really quite innate yet. If you're telling yourself you're strong, but you don't believe it, but you know, it's a real practice. It's beautiful. I love it, and I love teaching it with my students, and I love how it connects to this and self-confidence. And
We can tell you love it, and you really uplifted me. I it's sort of falling into sadness today, and even really the last week due to loss of a classmate, and a friend lost a son, and then the tragic loss of the officer in Elwood, and then of course the bad news about the Congress. I mean, this afternoon it's like, man, I was pretty low, so I'm in a pretty good place now. I thank you.
well, and it's nice too, because sometimes it seems like something like our self-esteem or our willpower feels so out of our control. And really, we're the only ones that can control it. You know, we're the only ones with the key.
Well, you brought a lot of threads together, Katie, and I really appreciate it tonight. Appreciate you taking so much time in preparation. I know you do a lot of work to bring these to us. And this was the 18th, is that correct? So we look forward to more.
19.
For the
Hopefully, you'll
19th.
give me at least 4 more, so I can complete the series. No hurry. Every 6 weeks or whatever.
Well, you did the 18th on the 120th consecutive, so
Yeah.
congratulations. Great, and so I think that maybe we'll conclude for this evening. We haven't turned the recording off, and so thank you for taking questions and comments, Katie, and being willing to be so open with your presentation. Thank you, everybody, for your contributions.
Be well.
Good to see you all. Take good care. Be well, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.